Good morning, parents and families. It is great to see you again. We are greeting you this morning from kind of cold but not freezing Richmond, Virginia. I'm Lynanne Yundestead. I'm the Director of New Student and Family Programs.
And I'm Lauren Braun. I'm the Assistant Director.
And we're going to be talking with you a little bit today about how to manage student breaks and what it's like, what to expect when your student comes home, maybe for the first time. We know that many of you are patiently awaiting the fall break holiday that is coming up. I know we are patiently awaiting it. We love your students, but we are excited to have a little break on campus too, and to be eager to welcome them back before finals begin. So we're going to jump right into this and give you some information that we think is important for you to know about things that are happening on campus in terms of residence hall and mailroom operation hours, as well as give you some tips for how to have a really successful time with your student when they come home.
All right, so as I'm sure you know, our first fall break is next week, and this is actually the first year for some of you who have returning students. This is the first year that we're offering a full week off for Thanksgiving. We changed around the academic calendar a little bit this year, so that might be new for some of our folks with returning students, but the students have all of next week off. There will be no classes held Monday through Friday. The university will be open all day Monday, all day Tuesday, and for half a day on Wednesday. So if you do need to contact some of our offices, you can do so early in the week, but the university will be closed beginning at noon on Wednesday, and will be closed through Friday, and then we'll resume operating hours and classes will resume on December 2nd. And like I said, the university will open back up. Some of the residence halls will be closed. We'll talk about that in a little bit and make sure you know which halls are closing, and that will mean your students will need to be out of them by I believe Friday or Saturday, but we'll go through all of that. And then students will come back for just a short, really couple weeks. And then they'll be back home again for winter break, which will start on December 23rd to January 3rd. That'll actually be when the university is closed. The last day of classes will be December 9th. And then students will be in final exams from the 10th through the 17th. But that will depend on their exam schedule. So just check in with your student when they're home next week, so you know when their exam schedule is. We encourage students to make sure that if they're living on campus, that they are out of the residence halls within about 24 hours of their last final. Again, we'll cover that in more detail in a little bit. If you have students who are on the MCV campus, some of those might start a little bit earlier, as early as December 9th, and they might finish up a little bit earlier, but we'll tell you where to find all of that. It's all available on VCU's website. And then we'll get a little bit of a break here. Like I said, the university will be closed through January 3rd. Then we'll be back in, the university will open back up January 6th. So if you need to contact us, make sure you do so before the 23rd or after January 3rd. And then classes will resume on January 13th for the spring semester. And again, some residence halls will be closed during the winter break. A majority of our first year students, that will impact those students. And we'll go through that in detail in a few minutes.
So a lot of parents and family members call with the question, when is winter break? And the basic answer to that question is it's from when your student's last exam ends until classes resume on January 13th. So that may be a little different for each student that we have here, depending on their exam schedule. So to give you an idea of our hall closings, we do have 4 halls that close during break periods, and those are Brant, Honors, Johnson, and Rhodes. And so the closing schedule is that for our upcoming fall break, the halls will close on November 23rd at 10 a.m. They will reopen on December 1st at 10 a.m. But remember that students don't have to be back in classes right away, so they've got a little bit of time to reacclimate. Then those halls will close again on December 18th, again at 10 a.m., and they will reopen from winter break on January 10th at 10 a.m. So again, it gives them some time to reacclimate to campus before classes begin. The other halls that we have on campus that your students may be in do remain open, but you should be very aware that the services on campus are reduced during break periods. Many offices are entirely closed, and some have just very limited operations. And so you'll want to check various departmental websites to determine whether or not the services will be available for your student if they do plan to stay on campus. I think probably the biggest thing we hear about is dining.
Yeah.
And so I highly encourage you to check out the dining website. They will have their schedule posted for our break periods so that your student can still eat while they're staying here if they happen to be in one of the halls that does not close. There are students who do stay over the entire break, and that's perfectly fine. There's a lot that's going on in the Richmond community over break periods, especially around various holiday seasons. And so there is a lot to do here on campus. So don't be upset if your student is not able to come home. There's still going to be a lot going on in the area, and it might be a great opportunity with them not having classes to actually be able to get out into the Richmond community and enjoy some of what the city has to offer. So we do get some questions sometimes from families about students coming back early or what happens if they don't get out of their hall in time. And so we copied this statement directly from the Residential Life and Housing website. No residents may return early from any breaks. And I'll say that one more time. No residents may return early from any breaks. Those open times, those reopen times are very, very firm. And that's because there are not staff in the building to ensure the safety and well-being of students outside of those times. And so we really have to stick to the open and close times. And if your student happens to be running behind when it comes to leaving for a break period, there is a charge if they don't vacate by the closing times that have been posted and shared with them and that you see on your screen here. And so it's really important that they try to organize their time, manage their time so that they can get out by the time that they need to and allow us to close the halls. If you have questions, we've included the contact information here for Residential Life and Housing so that you know who to reach out to about those open and closed times and dates.
Awesome. So we recently got an update from our folks who work with the mail centers on campus, and they wanted to make sure that we shared with families some information about reduced mailroom hours and closings of the mailroom over breaks. We've had some issues in the past with families trying to send stuff to their students, particularly if your student is one of those that's staying on campus, because there will be times where the mailrooms will be closed. So if you're trying to get things to your students, we want to make sure you know those closings, because if something gets sent and it doesn't either get here in time or your student doesn't pick it up before the mailrooms close for breaks, then they won't be able to get those packages, or those, if they're gifts or anything like that, they will not be able to get them until the mailrooms reopen. So you can see we've listed the schedule here for the mailroom. So for fall break, the mail centers in all of our on-campus residences will be closed between November 27th and December 1st. And then they will reopen on December 2nd at 9 a.m. So basically all of next week, for the most part, your students will not be able to get packages. So make sure if you're sending something, I would try to get it out ASAP so it'll get here before they close on the 27th, or maybe just wait until after the 1st. But I would try to get that out soon if you can. Otherwise, I will not be able to get it. For winter break, there will be reduced hours, and those hours will be Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., and Saturday and Sunday, 12 to 4 p.m. During winter break. And then there's also some specifics for certain halls. So Branton Roads Mail Center will be completely closed December 18th through January 5th. And it will reopen on January 6th, which is when the university reopens. And then the Resident Mail and Package Center, which is located on North Laurel Street. That's where a lot of other students on campus get their mail. And then the GRC Mail Center will remain open, but with those reduced hours that I mentioned above. And that will be December 18th through January 12th. So those reduced hours will run a little bit longer as well. And then those two mail centers will also be closed on December 25th, Christmas Day, and January 1st, New Year's Day. So just keep that in mind. And then all mail centers on campus will reopen with normal hours beginning on January 13th at 9 a.m.
All right, so there are some things that your student, if they're living on campus, needs to do to prep their living space. And there are actually some really good suggestions in here too if your student lives off campus, just things to consider. So before leaving campus, they want to make sure to turn off all their lights, close their windows, unplug appliances, and remove perishable food and trash from their residence hall room. We do have our resident assistants going into each room during breaks, and they do that to do health and safety inspections to ensure that the resident is living in a really safe environment and that it's a healthy environment. And they'll make notes and follow up with residents as appropriate once they return from break. But this is a good reminder, probably a great thing to share with your student, that someone will be entering their room during the break period, and that they want to make sure that their room is in order for that, and that they have followed the procedures for closing, turning off those lights, closing windows, unplugging appliances, and removing trash and food. All right, so we've talked about what happens on campus. Let's talk about what you should expect at home and maybe what you're not expecting. So first of all, your laundry room will be absolutely destroyed. It will be annihilated.
Offline to you the whole time because they'll be catching up on their laundry.
They have been storing and saving up this dirty laundry for weeks to bring it home to you. So that's just something that maybe you aren't expecting that is probably going to happen for many of you. Something else to be aware of is that your students are going to want to see their friends, and it might seem like they may want to see their friends more than you. That's not true. They want to see you too. But what we often find with students, especially first-year students, is that since they've been away at college for a semester, they've been connected with you as their family member because you're calling them, you're texting them. You all are talking very regularly, probably, about what's going on and how things are going in their transition. They may not have had the same opportunity to keep in touch with some of their friends from high school who may also be in college, and they might have different schedules and things like that that are keeping them from being in as constant of communication. And so we find that students, when they go home, are kind of missing their friends and people that they haven't had a chance to really connect with. We also see this a lot with siblings, that students who are away at college, they talk to parents and family quite a bit, but usually parents more than siblings. And so you might see your student wanting to spend a little extra time with a sibling. One thing that may come up is you've probably established some ground rules in your house before your student left for college, probably their whole time growing up. Things like, you know, when you wake up in the morning, you make your bed, or, you know, we have certain rules regarding keeping the bathroom clean or doing this or that or whatever. You may see your student either intentionally testing some of these rules or just completely not acknowledging them because they haven't had to acknowledge them for several months now. So just be aware of that. There might be some things that, if they're really important to you and you're pretty insistent that they're followed, that you might have to remind them or reiterate. The next thing you want to anticipate is sleep. Your students are going to probably sleep a lot. And this is not because anyone at VCU is preventing them from going to sleep. They have plenty of time to sleep here. However, there is something about being able to go home in a place that's safe and warm and cozy and has all the people that love you there, in your own bed with your own things,
without a roommate.
No
some of them are in doubles, so they will probably just be happy to be in their own bed by themselves if that's their situation at home.
There's just something that brings a lot of comfort during that time. So you might see your students sleeping more than you would expect. This is also a time of the semester when they're kind of burnt out. They're tired. They've just come through midterms. They've made it through this far. They're on the home stretch to the end of the semester, and they know that what's waiting for them when they come back is studying hard for exams, finishing up final projects, and doing whatever it is they need to do to have a great end of the semester. So they are going to take advantage of this time to be able to relax and sleep. So just be aware that they might be sleeping a little more than you're used to. Curfews, foreign idea, foreign concept. They have no idea what a curfew is anymore. And the idea of having to communicate to anyone when they're coming or going from where they live is also a foreign idea now. And it may seem like it was just a few months ago when these things were in place in your home. But those things have not been something they've had to do or think about for months now. They've had the freedom and the independence to come and go as they'd like. and to not have to let anybody know when they're coming or going, and to come home at whatever point in time they feel is right for them to come home. And so be aware that might be something that needs a little bit of negotiating or conversation when they get home. Shocker, your student may look like an adult when they get there. It is amazing the transition that students go through. And you've seen this over the life of your student, that, from one year to another, they're a completely different human. I know Lauren can probably speak to that more than I can, but
yeah, no, it's, I have a 1-year-old, actually now 13-month-old. So think back for a lot of you, that's probably quite a long time ago. But yeah, I can only imagine as they continue to grow how that changes. I just can't even believe looking back at pictures from a year ago. But you might not have realized how much they've grown just in the last couple months, and
so true.
Just being on their own, and their diets maybe have changed a little bit. So that can always kind of come into play, or how they're dressing maybe is a little different. Maybe just influence from new friends and being in a new place. And, there's a lot of different things that might have changed slightly that you should just be ready for, especially if you haven't seen your student in a little while.
Exactly. One thing I'm always shocked by is hair, the change of hair.
When they're new haircuts.
Parents are saying it's time for you to get a haircut. You need to do this. You need to do that. And sometimes our men, they go home and they got beards and they got long
facial hair.
We're like, what's happening? And so they may look a little different. But the good news is that they may also even act like adults too. Often we do see students who, after they've gone through this brief period of independence and having to take care of their space and their things and actually manage life and a schedule, they act a little bit differently. And so don't be surprised if your student comes home and offers to do things that maybe as a high school student, they didn't necessarily offer to do. And don't be afraid to ask them to help with some household tasks as well. They're ready for it. They've been adulting now for a couple of months on their own, and they're excited to continue that. One thing to be prepared for is that your cabinets, your pantry, your refrigerator, anywhere you store food items, it will be completely empty when they leave to come back to VCU. They will weasel all of the little snacks that they can into every corner and pocket of bag or whatever they've got to bring back. So you may want to have a few extra snacks on hand.
Stock up now.
Yep. Maybe get a few things that they really like, or be prepared for a pretty big grocery trip after they leave to restock everything. And then last but not least, I hate to leave on this kind of sad note, but it might become obvious to you at some point that your student is ready to leave. And that's not anything that we like to think about, or that sounds fun or positive. But I really hope that you'll take a positive spin to it, that it's not that they are ready to leave you, or that you are a problem, or the house or the family or anything like that is a problem. It's that they've become accustomed to an independent lifestyle and being able to manage their life and their time on their own, and that they're maybe perhaps missing some people back from school that have become an extended part of their family and their support network. And so don't take it too personally if it seems like they might be a little bit ready to leave. They'll still be very excited to see you again in winter break in just a few weeks. And then after winter break, they'll be excited to see you probably around spring break. So it's a cycle. And so some things that we encourage you to get done before they come. Get your laundry done first, because I'm telling you, once they get there, it's all over.
It's going to be taken over by them.
It's just all over. You might want to consider planning some family-only time and communicating that with your student. If it's important to you that they're not rushing off all the time to go hang out with friends back from home, that they may want to spend time with, it's important that you communicate that there are some specific maybe family dinners or family events that you want them to be a part of, and let them know those early on so that they can make plans around that. One suggestion that I've had for families in the past is that if you're worried that your student's going to run off to spend all their time with their friends, then maybe consider offering up your home as a gathering spot for friends and saying, why don't you have your friends come over? We can do like a movie night or food or something like that. So that might be just a way to get a little bit of extra time with them. If you have some curfew expectations, lay those out before they get home. That's the last thing you want to be arguing with your student about on their first night, or perhaps the next morning of their arrival, is whether or not they broke a curfew that they might not have realized still existed. And so make sure to just lay those out early on, and talk about preferences that you have regarding visitors. Your students have had the flexibility of having visitors come visit them at any time of day or night. They have had the opportunity to have overnight guests. And so those may need to be some things that you talk about and negotiate if you have some pretty clear preferences on that. And so be sure to communicate that early before your student arrives and has a friend sitting in your living room.
Yeah.
Make sure to have those conversations early on.
And be prepared. They might not love having those expectations or curfews or rules, but it's your home, it's your family, it's completely up to you. Maybe there's some compromise or some wiggle room. Maybe it's not the same curfew they had in high school or before they start college. Maybe you can push it a little later. That just might help help you navigate that, because they may be unhappy if you just outright say, nope, we're back to what you were in high school. And in their minds, well, I've been an adult for the last couple months, for the last semester. I've been on my own. I haven't had that. So if there is some wiggle room for you, it's something to think about, talk over with your family. And I think just be clear about what those expectations are, and just be prepared. There may be some pushback. There may be pushing some of those boundaries. But I think as long as you communicate clearly with your student what you expect, then I think it'll be just a better situation for everyone.
Absolutely. One thing you might consider is laying out what your non-negotiables are, and really thinking about those on your own independently, or as you and your partner or whoever else might share that space with you. Thinking about what those non-negotiable things are, like what am I willing to throw down and have an argument about? And maybe some of the other things, let those go. That just might be a good tip to consider before they get home. The other thing, they miss your food. I can tell you, we have great dining services here on campus, but students miss their home-cooked, delicious food. And so cook them some food. They will be so grateful and so happy to have had some of their favorites, some of the things that they grew up with. You might even consider sending back some snacks with them or some of their little favorite things back with them to VCU after the break.
Absolutely. All right. So some things to chat about once they're home and you have some time together, particularly this next week, as we get ready for students to head into finals and group projects and kind of wrapping up the semester. It may be a good time to check in on how they're feeling about their academics, and where they are in that. Their grades have all been posted at least through their midterms. So they should at least know kind of where they stand. And you may find that some students are not feeling great about their classes, and that's kind of normal the first semester. It's the first time that they've really been managing their own time and having to make their own schedules. And I know a lot of students can be scared to reach out to professors, or scared to go to some of the tutoring, but it's not too late. A lot of students can get, those final projects in and do really well on that final. That can really help get their grade up. So, some things you might want to talk about with your student if they're not feeling so great about their academic progress this semester, is that it's only their first semester, if they're a first year student. So this would apply to our first year students. If it's only their first semester, they've got time, and it's okay if maybe they didn't do as well this semester. We talk with our students in our classes and that we work with all the time that we learn from failure. And it's how we kind of overcome that. And as long as we make a plan and move forward, and try better next time, that's kind of what I talk with our students about. But like I said, it's not too late. There's the Campus Learning Center, which has supplemental instruction courses for specific classes, especially those courses that we know students have the most trouble with. There's one-on-one tutoring available. And then, for students who maybe are thinking it's not a specific class they're struggling with, but maybe it's just, I'm really struggling with managing my time. I really didn't get a sense of that this semester. I'm really struggling with how to study for tests, how to prepare for group projects or presenting, that kind of thing. Academic coaching through the Campus Learning Center may be a great option for them. And maybe that's something to think about more long-term of how can I improve these things for next semester, just because we do only have a couple weeks left in this semester. Something else to think about is a lot of students have papers due, and maybe these are like the longest papers they've ever written, or they haven't written that type of paper. We also have our campus writing center, which is located in the academic learning commons, and that is a great resource for students. They're going to be very busy this time of year, so it's something that they should be thinking about sooner rather than later. They should not be going in the day that their paper is due. They really should be hopefully already going, but it is a resource, and they will always help students as best they can if there's a time crunch. But if they're really struggling with a paper coming up, or a final paper that's due, I would definitely encourage them to check out that resource, and also just talk with their professors. A lot of students might not realize that there are extra credit opportunities, or they could ask for an extra credit opportunity. I'm teaching a class this semester, and a few students approached me about, hey, what could I do to get my grade up? And I'm willing to offer them, hey, if you want to take some extra time and write an extra paper, I'll be able to add some points. So I think a lot of times students just don't know, or they're afraid to ask, but it never hurts to ask. The worst that they're going to say is, nope, can't do that. And then they move on. But if they don't ask, they have no idea. So I know a lot of professors do offer some extra credit opportunities. Or opportunities to turn things in late. I know some students maybe missed a deadline for something, and they just think they don't have the option, but I know I will always accept something late. There'll be some points taken off. You won't get full credit, but I'd rather give students full credit or partial credit and give them that option. And I'll always work with students. I can't speak for all professors, but it can't hurt to ask. I think that covers all the academic stuff.
Those are definitely some great academic resources. You also might want to talk with your student about personal wellness. I think this is particularly important if you physically notice some changes in them that concern you. Some things that you might want to look out for are differences in hygiene. That's a big one. Students who may not be bathing as regularly, that may smell a little different than what you remember. Students who maybe aren't taking care of things like hair, nails. Some of those things get neglected when we're not taking care of ourselves. And so that might be something to look out for. Significant changes in weight, either a gain or a loss, might be something to be concerned about and to ask your student about. And don't be afraid to have some of these conversations of just, hey, I've noticed you've changed a little bit in this way. Is this something that you were actively trying to do, or is there something going on that maybe is leading to this change in how you physically present yourself? And I think that sometimes that can open up some conversations that are either really positive, like, oh, I have lost a lot of weight. It's because I'm going to the gym. I'm on a fitness routine. I'm really excited about this part of my life and these changes that I'm making. Or it might be something that brings up some concerns, and that they finally have someone who is recognizing it, someone who knows them, who knows what they looked like before, and who is concerned. And so don't be afraid to ask those questions. We do have a lot of wellness resources on campus, and so I want to highlight some of those briefly. I mentioned the gym. The gym is a great option for students who want to participate in various fitness activities, whether it's just going in for an individual workout or doing a group class. There are just a ton of options there. So if your student maybe is interested in becoming a little more physically active, that might be a resource to point them to. We have our Wellness Resource Center on campus, the Well, which students can utilize various services there to help them manage things like drug and alcohol abuse or dependency, various issues with sleep, any issues that they might be having managing stress. The Well just announced a new program that they're doing. It's called the Resilience Lab. And the Resilience Lab is an opportunity for students to go and participate in what's called a biofeedback session, where they can figure out a little bit about how to better manage their stress. And the idea behind this Resilience Lab is that we have a lot of students that are headed to our counseling services office thinking that they need therapy, that they might need ongoing group therapy or individual therapy. Whereas it's really potentially just something where they needed to manage stress a little bit better and work around specific one-time issues, not something that might need long-term therapy. And so the Resilience Lab is a great first step for students who are experiencing stress to kind of go in, figure out where they are, and get some tips and pointers, and then to maybe escalate to counseling services if they feel like that's necessary. if your student is experiencing some issues that might need a little bit additional targeted help, the Counseling Services Office is absolutely open, willing, and ready to meet with those students. They can make appointments online or in person. And the other resource that I'll point out is our student health. Student health is a pretty much full service clinic where your student can go to get whatever they might need. I know this time of the year, something that's really popular, those flu vaccines. And so that might be something you encourage your student to do if they haven't already, but also just a great resource if your student gets sick and needs some medication, antibiotics, things like that. They operate a very low cost pharmacy out of student health. And so I encourage your student to go check out those resources as well.
Yeah, never fun to not be feeling well before finals. So
Absolutely
maybe pack
not.
some extra vitamins and cough drops in their bag.
Yes, absolutely.
There's lots of germs going around this time of year.
So some of those conversations about their academic progress as well as their personal wellness might lead you to thinking about, okay, what does next semester need to look like? And so we encourage you while you are home with your student, I would maybe have this be a winter break conversation talking about next semester, and what next semester looks like. And that might be you reshaping some expectations for them for the next semester. If maybe they had a semester where maybe they had a little too much fun, or maybe they just really struggled and needed to utilize support resources better. This is a great time to sit down with your student and say, okay, you want to be successful. I want you to be successful. Let's map out a plan. Let's map out some resources that you're going to utilize on campus so that that plan can be realized and that you can actually be successful as a student next semester. I think also talking with your student about their class schedule. So many students have been meeting with advisors over the last couple of weeks, making their schedules for the spring. It would be probably a really great idea to ask your student, what classes are you taking next spring? What are the things that you're going to be doing? How many credit hours are you taking? Are you going to be doing any lab work or field work? Or are you going to be all in lecture classrooms? What does that look like? Are you taking classes online, or are they all going to be in person? These are great ways of just figuring out kind of what's going on with my student. What are they doing at VCU? What does the academic experience look like for them? And it's also a great opportunity for them to give you a sense of what they're doing in terms of credit hours. So as you all know, as we've talked about previously and at orientation, for those of you who've been at orientation, we encourage students to take 15 credits per semester if they want to stick to a 4-year graduation plan. That doesn't mean they have to. Some students, it may be absolutely appropriate to take less than 15 credit hours. And whether that extends their graduation plan a little bit, or whether they take classes during a break period, like an intersession class during winter break, or a summer class to kind of make up those credit hours that were missed if they took less than 15 in a semester. That is what's most important, is that your student is taking a workload of courses that is manageable for them to still be successful. It is much better to take 12 credits and do well in those 12 credits than to take 15 and fail 2 classes that you have to take again. And that's not a financially smart decision, or a decision that's smart in terms of their wellness. And so have that conversation. If you're noticing some significant areas in which you're concerned about your student this semester, and they come to you and they say, oh, I'm signed up for 18 credits next semester, you may want to have a conversation with them about whether or not that is best for their well-being. So I encourage you to have those conversations. Your support is really important to your student. And so reiterating during break that you are supportive of them is very, very, very important. It's going to mean a lot to them as they are continuing to emerge into adulthood, but realizing that they also have support at home, not just here at VCU. And I know we've pointed out some of the resources already during each of these kind of bullet points. One other one that I want to make sure that you are aware of, if you are not utilizing it and maybe your student should be, is our Student Accessibility and Educational Opportunity Office. We find that sometimes students who might have a disability, whether it's a learning disability or something else, they might start college thinking, I don't need any accommodations, I don't need any services, I don't want that. And maybe they do that because they're afraid of a stigma that's associated with that. Or maybe they just truly think, I was able to manage this well in high school, and I think I'm going to be fine in college. And it's possible that at this point, after the first semester, they may begin to realize that they really could utilize some accommodations that help them with whatever support that they might need. And so student accessibility and educational opportunity, the acronym is SAEO, SAEO, is an office that is here to support those students and to help get them registered for accommodations and to have what they need to be successful.
One other thing I would add that would be a great talking point to have with your student, especially over the winter break, thinking about next semester, is what are some things they've gotten involved in?
Mm-hmm.
Some students maybe haven't gotten as involved this first semester, and that's totally okay. Maybe they, especially our first year students, might want to take some time to adjust. But for those of you who have second, third year students or transfer students, it'd be great to think about kind of what have you gotten involved in? Have you looked at some internship opportunities? Have you looked at jobs on campus, maybe just to make a little extra money to get some experience? We know that our students who are more involved, both in and out of the classroom, tend to do better academically, and they tend to connect to resources. Something that I always talk with students about is at the end of your college experience, if all you've done is gone to class and gone back, and even if you've done really well in your classes, you don't list your classes on your resume typically. That's not what's going to get you jobs. Every once in a while, yes. And for grad school, of course, that's important, or professional school. But it's really going to be your experiences, your jobs, your involvement, your leadership. That's what what employers are going to be looking for. So maybe for some students, they've taken the first year to really get acclimated, or their first semester if they're first year students, to academic life. And if they are feeling really good about that, it could be a good opportunity to chat with them. Hey, what are you thinking about getting involved in? Because really, if you're looking for opportunities for the summer for either internships, maybe a study abroad opportunity for next summer or next fall, early spring is the time to be thinking about that. And so maybe while you have some downtime over winter break, it could be a good opportunity to start looking at some of those, talking through that with your student, getting them to start thinking about that. And that can help them in so many ways if they're undecided on their major or not sure what they want to do when they graduate. Different involvement opportunities or internships can really help them hone in on what do I really enjoy? What do I not enjoy? What am I good at? What am I not as good at? And those just give them those opportunities will give them a lot of different things to talk about when they're interviewing, things to put on their resume. And obviously Career Services is a great office to look at. Handshake at VCU is our online platform that's run through Career Services, and that lists on-campus jobs, off-campus jobs, internship opportunities. And then for students thinking about study abroad opportunities, you would want to check out the Global Education Office. Again, a lot of those deadlines for study abroad and for internship applications are going to come up pretty quickly in the spring semester. So winter break could be a great time while they have some downtime to start looking at researching some of those. And it could be a great thing for you to chat about with your students while they're home too.
Lauren did a great job of mentioning student organization involvement too. If your student is not involved in a student organization, or maybe wants to get involved, maybe they're having a hard time finding a sense of belonging at VCU, that joining a student org is a great way to find your people. And there are over 500 student organizations at VCU, so there is something for everyone. The way that a student can find out about those organizations is by going to Rams Connect. So Rams Connect is an online platform that is run by our University Student Commons and Activities. And students can go to that website and just enter in keywords of things that they are interested in. And it will populate a list for them of student organizations that have something to do with that. So it's a great opportunity if they're kind of maybe a little more reserved to have easy access to organizations that might have an interest for them. And I think just the overarching thing with this is remember, and tell your student this too, that adulting is sometimes 2 steps forward and 1 step back. It's sometimes we can make significant progress and then we have setbacks, and that's okay. And that they may have experienced that during their first semester, and there's a second semester to help turn that around. So we chatted with a few of our students around here to find out what was it like for you going home for break, and we got a few different ideas about what that experience was like that we wanted to share with you. One student said, nothing was really that different. Like I kind of liked my parents. It was good. It was good to be around them. It felt normal. But that the weirdest part was that living out of a suitcase while they were at home was strange. Like I only came home for, 2 or 3 weeks, and I was living out of a bag instead of living in my space, in my room, in my old room. And so be mindful of that it could be a little weird for your student coming home.
And for some students, maybe your student didn't experience as much homesickness this first semester or their first semester, thinking back to that time. But for some students, it doesn't hit until their second semester. And one student shared that with us, that it was actually being home for that little bit really reminded them what they had been missing, and that they were so focused on new things during that first semester, they kind of forgot how much they missed being at home. And sometimes it's that those first couple weeks back that second semester that it really hits students. And we hear that a lot from our students, that maybe it didn't quite hit home that first semester, but does that second semester. So something to be aware of for students if you haven't noticed that they feel homesick. And maybe they are homesick and they just haven't expressed it or
they're really tough.
That's okay too.
And then another student was excited to go home and see family, but also to see those friends. So your student may experience this where they were the only person from their high school that went to VCU, that chose to come to VCU. And so reconnecting with old friends is important. One thing that I think is really important for kind of the emerging adulthood process for our students is that they connect with people that they know, who know them, who they're close with, who are sharing a similar experience, but not in the same place. And so a lot of your students' friends are in that place where they might be at college somewhere else at a different university, but they know your student knows them, they trust each other, they have a relationship. And break is a great opportunity for those two people to connect, to talk about the common experience that they have at different places and to compare kind of what they're going through and have a good sounding board for each other. I know for a lot of our students, they are experiencing when they go home that their family is realizing that they've matured and is giving them the independence that they need and that they desire. And that can be a good thing. We were really lucky. We didn't run across any students who said, oh my gosh, I hate going home for breaks. I never want to see my family. It's really hard to find that student. And so we know that's because they're so excited to come home and to see you. And so we hope from our office to yours that you have a fantastic break with your student, both the fall break as well as winter break. If you are celebrating any holidays during that time, we wish you wonderful holidays, and that you really just get to enjoy this time, reconnecting with your student and having your family back together again. And that you'll have some really great conversations with them to help prepare them as they're going to come back next semester and continue to do really great things at BC.